Hello everybody, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Matt, Senior Client Success Manager for White House Custom Color, and we are so excited to be hanging out with Kendra St. today, so thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before we get into our conversation, I just want to do a couple reminders here for everybody following along. If you have not hit the subscribe button on our WHCC YouTube, make sure and do that. You're going to get notified of cool stuff like we're going to do today. Make sure and follow along on Instagram at WHCC Pro. And for all of your product details and questions and everything you want to know about what we do here at WHCC, hit up WHCC.com. If you have questions for Kendra while we're talking today, make sure and put them into the chat. If you are watching this on the rewind and you want to ask her a question, go ahead and put it in the comments because we know where to find you. We've chatted a time or two before. So we're very, very excited to have you here today. We've talked countless times over Zoom and on the phone, and to see you get out of the car this morning, I'm like, holy smoke, she actually does exist.
I know.
Like, not on a screen. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your family, a little bit about your business, and where you flew in from yesterday.
Yep. So I am married. I've been married for, I should know the answer to this, a while.
Sorry,
we have one little girl. She's 5. Her name's Cora. We currently have our studio based out of Salem, Massachusetts.
Yep.
We have one employee, so there's 3 of us. It's me, my husband, and Michelle. We recently moved from downtown Salem, where you can't find any parking, to just outside of the downtown to a space that's probably about 3 times the size. So there's a lot of room to play, but a lot of new learning curves because we got used to working in the same space. We were there for 13 years, so now it's just trying to figure out how do you work in a new space.
Right, yeah. And it's definitely been a learning time for you guys.
Yes.
I can remember when you told me that you were going to be moving, and you sent me pictures of the new space, and I was like, oh boy, that's going to be a lot of work. Because what was the space before you moved into it?
It was a bar, but not like a fancy bar. It was a dive bar.
And I could see the space and understand like how cool it was going to be, but that's an undertaking, you know. And to have a family, move the business, remodel the business, with 2 businesses involved, like that's a lot of stress for a person.
It was a lot to manage, but at the time we had a team of 5, so I feel like the stress was kind of equal
spread out
on all of us. But then a couple of people moved, and we just stuck with the 3 of us.
Yeah.
But we made it all happen. All 5 of us were there for the move, thankfully.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit because we're going to talk about how the business is blended today, hence the title of our YouTube Live. So fill everybody in, like how your business coincides with Dan's business, how they fall underneath Lightshed, like how does that all figure down?
Yeah, so when we first started, Dan and I worked together, and we were mostly doing weddings, portraiture, that sort of thing. But over time, we kind of went our separate ways doing the things that we love. So I stuck with portraiture, doing maternity, newborn, and family. And then Dan headed with real estate photography and headshot photography. And that is where we existed for a while, both in our separate spaces, giving feedback here and there, but both running each side separately.
Right.
Until this year, where I jumped on and now I manage all the scheduling and billing for Dan's side while still running my side.
Right. So you're busy.
Very.
You're a busy lady. So in the makeup of the business, so let's just, because I want everybody to understand like how you guys manage this, because when we were talking about the content for the live today, I said to you, like, there's a lot of husband and wife teams in photography, but what you guys do is very different from the vast majority of husband and wife teams, where you have your side, he has his side. Prior to that, you didn't really cross over into his side, he didn't cross into your side, and now that's very different.
It is very different.
And I think that there's pluses and minuses to that, and I really want people to understand like how you've grown in your role to help support his business as that is scaling. And during the move, the portrait end of it drop back a little bit, but that's probably because of your attention needing to be focused, in different places. So like if you're looking back hindsight now on the remodel, on the move, on the transition, like what is your hindsight on like how you're able to look at the roles in the business and more accurately understand what needs to be done? Do you feel like you're in a better place now because of that?
Yeah, within the last few months when our office admin moved and I took over her responsibilities, I have a better understanding of all the parts of the studio because I didn't really understand my husband's side before this.
Yep.
But now I do a lot on his side and then I still run my side. And I think it's helped be able to streamline a lot of processes.
Yep.
Because I have to make it happen fast because I still have my full-time role and then another full-time role.
Yeah. So
just figuring out what is the fastest way to get it all done has helped quite a bit.
Totally. And like earlier today, your phone was blowing up and you're like, there's some things I just need to take care of.
Yeah.
So you took a half hour and you caught up with things and you were like, it's stressful, but at the same time, when it comes time to bring a new staff member in, you really know what the need is.
Yes.
Versus having a staff of 5 and, being worried about, all that overhead. You've come down a little bit, really figuring out the pieces, and then when it comes time to fill it, you're doing it in an accurate manner, which is awesome. So we know that you have filled in with Dan's business. Has he crossed over into your side at all? Well, what the heck?
No, that's the way I like it.
Oh, is that how that works? And he's not chewing either, so that's a good thing. So you mentioned earlier that you're actually really kind of enjoying this side of working on the admin side and the headshots and commercial. How is that enjoyment going to impact Kendra moving forward on her side, on the portrait side of things?
Well, it's helped me figure out exactly what I need to do on my side because I don't want to give up my side. It's my passion. Creating those portraits and those lasting memories for family is what I love doing. I love the art behind it all. And while there is art on the other side, it's just not the same.
And what we should do is just roll a quick slideshow of some of your images so people can see some of your portrait work. And the studio that you were in before was quite a bit smaller than what you have now. You've got these beautiful shooting spaces to work with. So that has to be a lot of fun. And one of the things that you said when we were on the phone, you said, a lot of things are kind of jumbly in my mind, or were jumbly in your mind. Is that kind of clearing up now?
It's starting to clear up. It was a lot to take over the other role, but I'm getting quite used to it and knowing, okay, at this time, this is typically when I can expect realtors to call and book. And then once that's done, then I can sit here and I can do my work.
Yeah.
But just figuring out how to take the client base that I have and make the same amount of money with it that I need to if I was trying to grow my client base.
Right, exactly, because now your time is much more restricted.
Yes.
And you have to basically clone yourself to do all these things. So let's just talk about just a little bit more about the studio here. So looking back at that process, there are a lot of people listening that would kill to have a studio space like you do, or hopefully not kill, but almost. And that's a huge goal for them. Some will have the opportunity to do that, some may not. But what has been the big takeaways that you learned about going from the downtown space to the new space?
We got so much more for the same price.
Okay.
When we were downtown, we were pretty new. It was nice to have those storefront windows, all the people walking by to see our name. But after time went on, it kind of became more of a hassle. You didn't want to have to stop working to talk to anyone that walked in the door. So now we're out of downtown. We have 3,000 square feet. The door's locked 24/7.
Yeah.
and we just have room to play.
Well, it's locked 24/7 unless you're letting somebody in for an appointment.
Yes.
Just want to clarify that your appointments are coming to the door and you're like, don't come in here. And I know that Lucas was just running the video of the images of the studio, and it is an incredible space. I absolutely love it. So let's talk a little bit about sales-wise. So let's jump back a couple years to the old location. So you and I started having discussions, and you really had very distinct business goals, and you hit them and exceeded them. And a lot of it was due to your conviction of sales and product and groupings and all those things. How has that transitioned over into the new studio, even though you had the time where you have to really focus a lot on what Dan's side of the business is pulling from you? Like, how did that piece of that and having such success, once you really redefined your product line, your sales, how was that impacting this moving forward? That's a good question.
That is a good question. Well, I will say that the move allowed me the space I needed in the sales room. Okay. Our old sales room was small and dark, and there wasn't a lot of room to move. And no matter how many times I would tell people, find a babysitter, leave the kids at home, have a date night so you can concentrate. Yep. It wasn't always possible.
Right.
But
life happens.
Now I have space set up for the kids with toys that I stole from my daughter.
Does she know that?
She does. So they are still in the same room, but they're not right next to us, and they're occupied. So mom and dad can sit there and make decisions. And then I purposefully set up the wall art and displays in that room to be what I want to sell, the things that make me the most return for my time investment.
Right. Which completely aligns with your business goals.
Yes. I completely believe in printed products. Yeah, digitals are still a thing in my world, but I rarely have clients leave without some type of printed product. Yeah. That is my main focus. Wall art being my top, and then albums coming in after that.
Right. And earlier today you saw an album be made, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, and then also a whole new wall display for your studio. And when you were working on that, you said to me, you're like, I try to sell this each time, and I have it, but it's in different places around the studio, where now I'm going to bring a multi-piece together, put it close to the sales space, actually where the kids play. I think it's
right above the kids area,
play. So it'll be very easy to sell. So you are planning out your grouping so people can say, I want that, or that, or that, or that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I have found that people need to see exactly what they're getting because they can't visualize it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Let's go ahead and pop the image of her sales room up on the screen if we can here. So tell us about like how you are setting the stage for your great sales. So I know you have a process, what you have ready to go when people come in. Can you explain that to us a little bit?
Yeah, so when they come in, an image like you see on the screen now is always displayed with a mock-up of their wall art, just something that I think looks really nice. And I've started creating rooms using AI to match their images. I try to talk to them in advance about planning their outfits for the space that it's going to be hanging in, but they don't always go in that direction. But then I try and show them what it does look like when you do plan things out that way.
Right.
And it's been a lot of fun to create the rooms to hang the displays in. So that's the first thing they see when they walk in, and then I give them a little tutorial of what's going to happen next. And then I start in on a slideshow that I design that's a mixture of still images and video clips that I take from the session. I let that play, and then we go through the images, 1 to 4 images at a time, pick out their favorites, and then once I have their favorites, which typically they might knock it in half, maybe a little bit less. Then I say, all right, let's figure out what we're going to do with these. And then that's when I typically throw back up that wall art display and say, I always mock something up for you, just to give you an idea of what could be done. But if you look around the room, you can see we have lots of options.
Right.
So I try to get them to pick out the wall art display first, and then say, we still have a lot of beautiful images left, which would be perfect for an album.
Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly how I love it when people do that, because if they're choosing a multi-image product, like maybe an album first, then it might be somebody saying, well, I have them all now.
Yep.
Now I don't need something beautiful for my wall because I have them all in my album. I think it works much better how you're doing it. Sell the wall art first.
Yep.
Album at the end. You get them both instead of an and or
Absolutely.
situation. So about how long are you working with people for the sales appointment?
About an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay.
Repeat clients, we tend to go faster because they've been through it before,
Yep.
they know the products. And then first time clients, I really try and take my time and show them everything that I have to offer.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're working with clients, and I think this is really, really cool of what you do specifically, and I've never heard of anybody else doing this, you're designing clothing for them, or you're trying to design clothing for them.
Yep.
If they allow you to. Will you walk us through that process? Because that has to be a ton of time for you.
It does take a lot of time. On the questionnaire that they fill out when they're booking the session, it says, would you like help planning outfits? Most of the time they check yes, whether it's just selecting stuff from their closet or I get to go shopping for them.
Okay.
And then if they do say yes, I say, what stores do you like to shop at? And then I get the sizes for everybody. And typically at that point, I know what they're looking for. If we're going on location, I know where we're going, or if we're doing it in studio, I know what backdrops they prefer.
Okay.
So then I plan the outfits around that, and the stores that they select. And each family, I typically give one or two choices, like here's mom, dad, baby, that sort of thing. Here's one set, and then here's the next set. And I have a lot of clients that just buy exactly what I send them.
Oh, that's awesome. So do you establish like what a budget should be for that, or do you just go out and select like $8,000 outfits for people?
No, I just go based off of the stores that they prefer to shop at.
Okay.
I have a lot of clients that they're like, Amazon, Target, that's where I want to be.
Okay.
So then I kind of know, okay, I know a good price range, but then I have other clients that want Nordstrom's or Macy's, and then I know, okay, well, I know about what you want to spend over there.
Okay, awesome. And I'm going to bring this back full circle to sales, thinking or knowing that when you have the correct outfits that go with the correct location, the correct background, the correct time of day, that all comes full circle into completing a large sale.
Yes.
Rather than somebody showing up in rugby stripes, and in bright pink or polka dots or whatever that and I know and most of the world knows is not going to look good on camera. So let's talk about this beautiful album a little bit, because I think this is a really, really great example of clothing design that fits into the location. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the family, a little bit about the location here, and I'll kind of flip through this.
Yeah, so this family I've been working with since the mother was pregnant with the oldest.
Okay.
I've been to their house multiple times, so I know their style, and she wants to do something different every year. And this is a location that I had been to when we used to photograph weddings, but I'd never done a portrait session there. And I pitched her the idea. She was fine with the extra fee because it's an expensive place to go and photograph. And then she always wants help with the outfit. So I'm like, well, the girls need to look like princesses because we're going to a castle. And I knew these girls would love fancy dresses because that's them.
Right.
And so I sent it all along. There was a brief moment where we didn't think the dresses were coming and we were scrambling, but then like the day before they arrived. But it all came together really nicely, and I think it fit perfectly with the castle.
Totally. Yeah, and one cool thing about this album in particular is you watched this be made this morning.
Yes, which is so awesome.
It is. And this is an acrylic cover, which is pretty cool. So this is your second acrylic cover
Yes.
that you're going to have in the studio.
Yep.
So that's exciting. And then this also has your awesome, I got a little dust on there, your awesome custom DeBoss on the back as well. So yeah, it was fun to watch this come to life, but I mean, I can't stress to you, the viewer, the importance of what Kendra is talking about here. And you have to be frank and forward enough to tell your clients you have to dress appropriately. Like this, to really make this experience what it should be, you need to follow through with this. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the products, aside from the albums, that you really like to sell your clients. So you mentioned you love to do wall art. Like, what are some of your most popular things that you sell from WHCC?
One of my top ones is a series of 3 frames, one big one in the middle, typically about 20 by 24.
Okay.
Sometimes we go a little bit bigger. And then 2 side pieces, the 10 by 20s with the multi-openings.
Yep. Which is what we saw being made this afternoon.
Yes, because most of my families have multiple children.
Okay.
And it's a good way to show the family picture, the kids together, each of the kids individually, and then, you know, like a mom and dad picture.
Yep.
And then another really popular one, which you might have seen, I don't remember, in one of the studio images, is a silhouette series.
Oh yeah, I
where
did see those.
There's the silhouette of the family, and then the kids individually on each side. And I always like the silhouettes on metal because there's so much beautiful color in them.
Yes.
And then I like just putting a nice black simple frame on those.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 favorite wall arts. I do have a lot of canvases which are pretty popular as well. But personally, those 2 things are my favorite.
So the metal and then the multi-opening frame or matted pieces.
Yep.
That's awesome. I think I saw the silhouettes on the right-hand side of your sales room. And then our friend Christian has his family done that same way.
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And it was fun to see him watch his metal come to life here, a month or
Yeah.
so ago. So I know that we've already kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. Your goal as a businesswoman is to maximize your time, maximize your sales for the time that you have available so you can still be wife, mom, help for Dan, all the things.
Yep.
So how are you succeeding in raising that average sale? Like what is Kendra doing every day intentionally to make that happen?
It's setting the expectation with the client from the very first time you speak with them. Okay. Just in the way you're speaking. Like saying, you know, we offer a lot of products here. Did you have any thoughts in mind? This is what most of my clients do. And then I say they typically get, 1 to 4 pieces of wall art, depending on how many members of family you have. And then there's still a lot of beautiful images left over after that. So a lot of people like to put those in the album. And then you have the wall art and then all the others in the album.
Right.
So I typically do that on the phone with them if they do the phone consult. And then they get a couple of emails leading up to their shoot. And in there it mentions those little things again. Like, hey, remember we are trying to create some beautiful pieces out of this.
Yep.
So I'm here to help you with the outfits, that sort of thing. And then after the shoot, they will get an email just saying, hey, this was a lot of fun. Here's a link to schedule your viewing presentation. Keep in mind, this is what we're gonna do, and here are some great things that we can do with your images.
Cool.
So I'd say anywhere from 3 to 5 times they hear from me about the wall art and the albums and all the products.
Awesome. And then also on social media, just to point that out, you are constantly posting unboxing product. Like you're not just posting your images, you're doing behind the scenes, you're doing some fun stuff, during the holidays, like when you guys wrapped up for the year, you were all like dancing through the camera. And I don't think Dan danced though, if I remember correctly.
I think he just walked by.
I think he did just walk by. But that's important too, and for those of you that constantly ask that question, how do we get people to think about product? It's not enough to just show your imagery.
No, you got to show what you want to sell.
Yeah, absolutely, and not just during the sales process,
Before.
all the way through. So when people come to your studio, they're seeing the product. They're seeing the product in social media. They're seeing the product in emails. They're hearing you talk about it during the session. Like, this is not just a, here, you should have this, and, oh, okay, I'll take that. It's, it's multi-leveled to that.
Absolutely.
And I think that you can attest to this, that it's like, that's kind of an art form when you can bring that out and you can fill that blank space maybe in the session with a discussion about, this is going to be fantastic for this,
Yep.
or I would do this with this. It has a lot of power.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So from start to finish with your client experience, and hopefully that the experience never really ends, but what is the timeline that people usually experience with you from the time that they reach out and schedule to the time that the session's done, sales done, product is delivered? Like, what kind of time frame are you looking at there?
Typically, from the first time I talk to them, it's at least a couple weeks before their shoot.
Okay.
A lot of times maybe 3 weeks, right around there. And then after their shoot, it's anywhere from a week to 2 weeks after when they come in for the viewing presentation.
Okay.
And then I edit the images. I deliver them a proof gallery of their edited images just to make sure they don't want anything else done to them. And then once they give me the okay, I have it printed. So let's see, where were we at?
So just to make sure I understand,
Yep.
so once you've done the sales presentation, they've chosen their images, you do your retouching, your edits to
Yep.
it. Let them see them
Let
again?
them see them before I print anything.
Okay. Is that ever caused a problem, or is that good to do?
Most of the time, people say they look great, thanks, you're good to print.
Okay.
I think only once or twice someone has been like, oh, can you just do this?
Okay.
And it's like one small little edit. Like, I just don't like the way that piece of hair is. Can
Got
you
it.
take care of that?
Okay. So it's, at that point, it's more of a service.
Yes.
And it's not been detrimental to
No.
you at all.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. That's what I was getting
Nope, not at all. So I'd say start to finish, 6 weeks maybe, from
Okay.
the very first call till products in hand.
Okay. And has that adapted now with you changing your role slightly? Has that become longer, shorter, about the same?
No, I've been able to pretty much keep to my timelines pretty well.
Okay, that's good. So, being the business person that you are, I'm going to ask you a couple hard questions here. I won't pull them out of thin air, though, I promise. So, I know that you have business goals. You always have. You've talked about that. You have numbers in mind. You have
Yes.
sales goals, all the things. You're not just going at it just haphazardly. So, what is your top business goal for 2024?
This year, it's to up my averages even more than I have. I think when we first started talking, it was under 1,000, probably by a decent amount. And then since we talked, it's gone up a decent amount. But because my time is so much more valuable, it has to go up even more. I just need to keep servicing the same client base that I have, but making more off of them because I don't have enough time to add to that client base.
Yeah, for sure. And also, when we were walking through our wall display building today, you were watching the acrylics being made.
Yep.
And there just happened to be, and this actually wasn't planned, it would have been great if it was, there were some architectural images.
Yes.
That were being completed, and I could see, ding, I could see the light bulb come on for you,
Yep.
and you were like, I need to talk to Dan
Yes.
about doing this as a deliverable for some of his clients, because right now, in the real estate side, it's X amount of dollars for this coverage and this, where just think if that world opened up.
Absolutely.
Of product.
It was nice to see that stuff sitting there because I'm like, wait, we have a design firm that we work with. We have big construction crews that we work with. And then we have agents that are high-end agents that like to provide a gift for their clients. And one in particular that was like, oh, I used to do these watercolors and frame them up nice. And I'm like, these would be great alternatives and then great add-on sales for clients that are already there, images that are already created.
Yeah, the work is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so literally it's just a product, which is a beautiful thing about products and what we do here at WHCC, because you can scale without any risk at all.
Yep.
You do what you do, we do what we do, and then we build together, and that's a fantastic thing. So before we get to my next question, I know it's hard for right brain artists to keep track of data and numbers and spreadsheets. And some people are good at that and some people are not. I think you were good at it. So what has been of value? If somebody is listening to this and they're like, their brain just turned off when I said the word spreadsheet, you know, what are some of the things that you track that are manageable, that help you determine, and I loved how you said, my time is too valuable to do things that are not, you know, paying my wage. How do you even know that? Because a lot of people, if they say my time is too valuable, and I say, well, what's your time worth? And they'll be like, well, I don't know.
Yep.
You know, like, how do you determine that?
So typically at the start of each year, I go back and I look at the numbers from the year before, and I break it down by category, like session type. And I would have like themed holiday shoots throughout the year, and then all my other categories, families, newborns, kids, all the different things. And I can see exactly what I make for each one. So I'm like, this isn't working, let's just take it out. Why even put any time towards it when it's at the bottom?
Right.
And then I break it down even further and I can see, well, I'm not selling this. Why even worry about it? Why don't we get rid of that? This is what I'm selling the most of. Let's make sure I have it somewhere. I have it hanging. I'm emailing about it. I have it on social media.
Right. Can we just rewind that and play that whole thing again? Like that, and honestly, like for everybody that's listening, that right there, I can talk about that exact piece, what you just said, until I am blue in the face some days, like to match my shirt. And it still doesn't ping. But what you're doing there is you are monitoring what is of value and what is not of value. And if it's not of value, it's going to go away. And truly, you know, in a business, you have to do that. So since you've been doing that and monitoring the ups and investing in that and the getting rid of the downs and replacing it, like how has that changed and revolutionized Lightshed on the portrait side?
I used to cover a wide variety of portrait services, but then I saw which ones of those was making me the best return, and I started chopping. So if you go to my website, you're going to see maternity, newborn, family. I don't advertise anything else but those things, because those are where I can make the most amount of money. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm proud of you for doing that. I know that can be a difficult thing to do because we all get emotionally attached to things at times that maybe don't serve us, you know, the best. So that's awesome.
That doesn't mean I say no. Like I've had clients, especially this past year, that I've been working with for years. I take their kids' photos every year. They graduated this year. I'm not going to say no to doing those senior portraits. They've been with me for years, but I'm not going to go out looking for them.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's, you know, how you've built this business, and you have a client for life, essentially. You know, I always say, like, having a photographer that you trust and know and love, and they love you back, is like having a doctor, a physician that you trust. You know, like you stay with them for a long time. So that's fantastic. So if you were going to offer advice to people who are tuning in today, from your business experience, having, you know, multiple brick and mortars, working with your spouse, helping, you know, with another side of business, learning a whole new skill set, I'm sure you could probably advise for the next 3 hours, but unfortunately we only have a few minutes. What would be your advice in a nutshell for people that are following along?
Fine-tune your systems.
That was quick.
Yep, absolutely. Because that is what has been most important this year, taking on the new rules, is making sure that the systems are in place that allow you to do your work efficiently. Make sure that from start to finish, the workflow for each thing you do makes sense. And if it doesn't, figure out what part you're getting stuck on, and is there a way to fix it, or can you just get rid of it?
Right. Yeah, because if you can get rid of it, you should get rid of it.
Yes.
Yeah, just like if you have a non-moving product or a low-hanging fruit session that's not doing anything for you, why keep it around?
Yep.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, we really appreciate you sharing with us today, Kendra. And it's such a pleasure to have you and Michelle here. Michelle's sitting in the back of the room. She's been sitting over there nice and quiet, just smiling back at us. So we really appreciate you guys traveling from Massachusetts, hanging out with us for the day, and we get to have a fun night now.
Yeah, it's been really awesome to see everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know the staff has enjoyed meeting you. It's just a great thing all the way around. So thank you. And we really want to thank everybody for joining us today for our YouTube Live. Just a reminder, if you haven't hit the subscribe button on our WHCC YouTube, make sure and do that. Follow along on Instagram at WHCC Pro for all kinds of cool stuff that gets posted online. And then for all of your product questions and details, hit up WHCC.com. I can talk today, can't I?
It's been a long one.
It must be late in the day. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Matt from WHCC. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you at the next one.